So once again, I'm putting the forewarning out there so that you can understand. Once again, it is not to expose you or cause you to go into a spiral or cause you to begin to think along the lines that you're not supposed to. Once again, we are all, well, not all of us, but some of us are adults, and those of us that are not adults, you still understand that you need to cast down any evil imagination that tries to exalt itself against the knowledge of Abba Yahuwah. And it is so. Once again, it's important that we understand these things. The heart symbol has two main source roots, Babylonian Hinduism, and is being birthed from Hinduism, adapted the heart symbol as a symbol of affection, love, and purity, as it is valued in Hinduism. But before the birth of Christianity, Babylonians used the symbol to represent immortality and sexuality. Immortality and sexuality. So I wanted to put that as the foundation. So as we jump down, and those of you that have been following along with this teaching, you have come to understand there's a lot of things that we have covered, but there's still yet a little more to cover. And this really digs a little deeper into what we had talked about before. Now we understand Lupercalia and St. Valentine's Day is when this is really practiced the most. Valentine's Day, as often believed, was not birthed from the celebration of St. Valentine's at all. It wasn't until the 5th century AD that Valentine's Day was recognized. However, the beginning of Lupercalia began much earlier, predating pre-Rome. And we know this is a celebration that happened in Rome. Lupercalia is an ancient Roman festival that was conducted annually on February the 15th. Under the superintendence of a corporation of priests called Luperci. The origins of the festival are obscure, although the likely deviation of its name from lupus, which is Latin for wolf, has various suggested connection with an ancient deity who protected herds from wolves, and with the legendary she-wolf who nursed Romulus and Remus. As a fertility rite, the festival is also associated with the god Faunus. Each Lupercalia began with the sacrifice by the Luperci goat and a dog, after which two of the Luperci were led to the altar, and their foreheads were touched with a bloody knife, and the blood was wiped off with wool dipped in milk. The ritual required that the two young men laugh, that they would laugh. Now, y'all remember a time when we were in Christianity that there was a movement where people just fall out laughing? You remember that? People go and the man would lay hands on them, and people just started going into a fit of rage, just laughing. And people said, well, you know, that was the power, the presence of Yahuwah. I don't ever see nowhere in Scripture where you ever see anybody falling out laughing and so forth. Nobody. Once again, you have to understand where a lot of things are birthed out of and what is acceptable. Because remember, they're calling on what? God. So you don't know who they are provoking or evoking.
That's true.
Because who we serve has a name.
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. Now, listen what they would do. The sacrificial feast followed, after which the Luperci cut thongs from the skins of the sacrificial animals and ran in two bands around the Palatine Hill, striking with the thongs at any woman who came near them. A blow from the thong was supposed to render a woman fertile. In 494 CE, the Christian church under Pope Gelasius I appropriated the form of the rite as the Feast of Purification. So once again, they basically adopted it in and went from there. We find out that it was also a plant that was used, a fertility plant or an aphrodisiac plant. And so we see where it has many roots. But we want to look at it tonight as we looked before. We're going to start here, and it's a lot. I won't say a lot, but it's enough to cover. Because there are certain things and certain symbols that we see today that we've just gotten accustomed to, and they have parts in them. They have the symbol of the heart. Now, you have to understand, this symbol is what I would say is a very powerful symbol. And if you don't understand this symbol and you just run around and just use it and you just throw it up on everything, you don't understand what you are basically stating without stating it. You don't really understand what you are promoting and what you are accepting when you don't really know what it is. In Hindu, the Hindu yantra, which dates back to more than 11,000 years, the heart symbol can be found. The yantra is usually a hexagon shape that has 4 doors or passageways used for healings, Hindu astrology, meditation, and prayers. The mantra usually rests on lotus flower pads, often forming a blunt heart-shaped image. So once again, you have to understand all these things. You wonder, why is it all the time you see these things and that a heart would be in it? Well, if you don't know, you never kind of put 2 and 2 together to make up 4. We always kind of just brush it off and say, well, I mean, it's just a symbol. No, you have to understand, it's more than a symbol. It is what, where this thing was birthed from and what it was birthed out of. Excuse me. Another form of the heart shape can be found in the heart chakra, or anahata. The Mandela tree, the chakra is said to be the center of energy in the Hindu religion and lies between the eyes. The heart chakra also, however, lies in the middle of the chest and is said to be the root of love, compassion, and emotional healing. And you know, a lot of people follow behind this, even so-called black folk. Are you following me? And if you Hebrew and walking in truth, you know you don't have no business following up behind this stuff right here. Period. But once again, this is another root, and this is what I'll say another vein or artery into this thing. Now, once again, many Hindu gods and goddesses can be found with the trident symbol painted between their eyes, representing the chakra of war and victory. The trident symbol bears a candid resemblance to the upside-down heart and is said to be the weapon of choice by the god Shiva, who fights off negativity. The heart chakra, or hanata, is used to ward off emotional stress and heartbreak, and its shape is often found on the headdress and crowns of the Hindu gods, lords, elders, and goddesses. Once again, it is in the form of what? A heart. It's in the shape of a heart. Once again, you know, we look at it and be like, oh, well, this is a heart. What can there be? What harm can follow that? A lot. When you don't understand its concept. All right. The Balinese heart symbolism. Bali is very rich in Hindu culture with its country flag placing the lotus flower at its base. Over 80% of its population identifies as Hindu. One of the most scared sounds and icons in Hindu culture is the Om. The Om is written different across different Hindu countries. Bali's adaptation of the Om is that of a horizontal heart design. The design on the left depicts a lotus flower holding the Om with the moon and a star above it. The moon and star collectively can often be found in Islamic and Buddhist cultures. Excuse me. The sacredness of the Om is the belief that it brings completion and oneness to the soul and to the center of one's self. The Om sound can be heard in many modern words and sounds that can be excuse me, crafted throughout history to support the influence of Hinduism. Once again, someone might say the heart. Well, what is the heart doing there? Once again, you have to understand symbolism means a whole lot. Symbolism plays a major part in a lot of the things that we do and a lot of things that we don't do. And this is one of those, once again, where we were taught to believe that the heart was innocent. There's no foul in it. It is a symbol of endearment. It is a symbol that shows you, that shows a person how they feels about them. And truthfully, it's not wrong, but you don't want to be using it because of its concept and because of where it's birthed from. In other words, that what is stated about it is right, but we don't want to be involved in that. Right. Because remember, he told us in Devarim chapter 6, verse 14, he said, what? Do not follow after their powers. Yes. He said, don't. You know why? Because if you follow after their powers, then you're going to begin to serve them. And after serving them, you're going to begin to worship them. And whatever they call for, and whatever it is they're expecting of you, you're going to do that. So you don't, once again, want to be connected to that. And I know society has it on everything. It's in the emojis. When you go to like somebody's post, you can't even like a post unless you hit that heart. Right. So that's showing us that this is not just something that was done randomly or haphazardly. There is a reason why this was done. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, very important. All right. Other Hindu art with heart depictions. There are thousands of heart depictions throughout Hinduism alone. Two others that are worth sharing are the symbolism that are often found in the Hamsa hand and the mandala tree. The Hamsa hand is a symbol that is used in Christian, Kabbalah, Hindu, Buddhist, and Islamic religions. It is a hand that is seen on many images of the saints with the Catholic and Christian churches. The hand that is worn around necklaces of many Muslims and the Kabbalah followers, and is seen in the homes and temples of many Buddhists and Hindu. This hand is believed to be the hand of protection from evil. The mandala is a geometrical pattern used in both Hinduism, Buddhism, and Hinduism that is said to be the map to the universe. Now I'm going to see if we can see this. Once again, I wish I had it to where you could, but I'm going to see if you can, so everybody can see this. And we saw one of these before. Okay, I'm gonna pass it around so you can see it. And we had got some flowers one time, and it fell out of the flowers. And we were trying to figure out, where did this symbol? I know when I first saw it, I said, something ain't right with this. This is not natural, and I didn't like it, and we threw it away because I was like, where did this come from? But it was in a plant. Now let me share it with y'all. We had just come from a baby's funeral. The baby was only 9 months old, maybe 8 or 9 months old. And at that time, Apostle Brown resided over the service. And so we were given one of the plants. And we bought it and we put it in here. You know, we were still walking in Christianity. And we brought it and put it in here. And when we put it in here, it fell out. And we were like, okay, where did this thing come from? And we were like, where did this thing come from? I'm like, I know we don't have it. And we're like, I'm like, where did this come from? But you can also find them in Christian churches, Jewish synagogues. I didn't say us. I didn't say in the Hebrew. I hope we don't. But in the Jewish community, you can find these because they use them and they esteem them. They wear them. They have them as talismans. They have them where you can buy them because I've seen them. And you start looking at all this stuff, these things are not right. Now, this is where it is getting ready to get a little explicit. Okay? Now, once again, as I said before, please elevate your thinking and elevate your mind and your heart and maintain. Why? The reason I say so is because it is important that you understand we're being exposed to truth, but the truth that we're being exposed to is explicit. Once again, I'm not going to use terms that are slang, but I will use medical terms or use the terms that a physician would use if you went to the doctor. Even in that, still, you have a lot of times when you are dealing with the anatomy, the body, and certain parts, it can make people uncomfortable. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And so once again, I want us to understand that this is something that is important for us as a people to know. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's very important for us to know because we don't want to be a people left in darkness, do we? No, we do not. And we don't want to be a people where the enemy can come in and devastate us because we have walked in this way and so contrary to the truth of our Yahuwah that now we accept it as truth. And let me tell you something. It is important in this time because he's making us ready. You have to understand there can be no sin and there can be nothing in our lives that will prevent us from being able to see him in shalom. And believe it or not, a lot of the things that we accept and we walk in, it is not in his will. So it's important that we understand that. All right. Now, the human anatomy and the heart. While Europeans may have reverenced the heart-shaped symbol as a symbol of contraception from the silphium plant, the Hindus and Buddhists may reverence the symbol as a symbol of peace, love, and perfection. Other references should be made, such as the reference of its ideally shaped to the human anatomy. Now, once again, We're gonna go through this, and then we're gonna jump on to another place, and it's gonna bring out even a little more and go a little more in depth. The bow is said to represent the male's penis, entering into the female's vagina or buttocks, as indicated in the common Mars and Venus gender, or male to female symbols. It should be noted that Mars and Venus are both Greek idols who were sexual partners. Once again, I want to show you this, and I'm not going to show you the other one. I just want to show you this symbol, because you know we always see this and we always thought this was harmless. The heart with the arrow and the two symbols. Show that too. Once again, very important for us to understand those symbols. You see those symbols on many things. You see them. You see the heart and the arrow in graphics. You see them on billboards. You see them especially during Valentine's. You see them in literature. You see it in history. But we've always taken it as, oh, it's Cupid shooting his arrow through the heart. We never really look at it as being a sexual rendering. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Of a male and female body parts coming together. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Once again, we need to know these things. Why? Because a lot of times we accept these things. We accept it on literature. We accept it in information. We accept it as just being symbols. It is not just a symbol. This symbol has a birthing place, and it has a purpose. Now, once again, this is what it represented. Now, when you look at another form of the heart shape can be found in an image of the female's hymen. Are y'all hearing me? Once again, it's an image. Hymen in the English word for the Greek god human, which is said to be the god of marriage and joining. Now, y'all have to understand where this is going to go. Now, medically, when the thin layer of skin covering a woman's opening of the vagina has been broken or pierced, she is said to no longer be a virgin. This idea is befitting, giving Cupid's piercing of a bow into a heart from a male love interest, denoting a wounded heart or hymen. When the hymen has been broken, the Greeks believe that the woman has been joined together with the man by the god human or hymen. It is said that the god of hymnos in Christians and Catholic churches are same. This is where you get the word hymns from. Hymns. Are you following me?
Yes.
Did you hear what I said? It is to this God that the hymnos in Christian and Catholic churches sing. Let's open our what? Our hymns to page what? Are y'all following me?
Yes.
It's tight, but it's right. Can be a little embarrassing, but it's true. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. Are y'all listening?
Yes.
All right. Now, once again, I'm going to read this, then we're going to go into another portion that's going to go even a little more in depth. Once again, it is important that you understand the reason that I'm bringing this out is not to expose you to illicit or anything else, or imagery, but it is to expose us to the lie and to the damaging symbols that we've been using and that we've been comfortable with for all these years, generations and generations, that we've allowed these symbols to float around us. We've accepted it, and we've never said anything about it because many of us did not. And the ones that did know about it, either they were too ashamed or they just felt like, well, eventually people will stop doing it. But now we're in a society that unless you hit a heart button, you can't tell somebody you like their stuff unless you go and say, con. And this is what we're going to have to start doing, because you don't want to hit that heart button and push it, especially after knowing what it means. Are you following me?
Yes.
Once again, it represents a woman's, the symbol or what it can be expressed as. Are you following me? I'm trying to use my words very careful. All right. Now, the cherry, apple, plum, and peach are all fruits that symbolize the woman's genitals and bear resemblance to the iconic heart shape in both modern and ancient cultures. The forbidden fruit that is spoken of in many religions is ideally an apple that is said to represent the woman's sexuality. The cherry is also said to represent a woman's vagina in many cultures. When a woman loses her virginity, it is said that her cherry has been popped. Are you hearing me? Once again, you have to understand, this is what society says. This is what has been going on from the time that even before I was born. These are words, these are concepts, these are things that have been brought forth and have been said for many of generations. And never was there at that time, I don't believe, of any correction, because if it was, many of us would not be using hearts today. Mm-hmm. The reason we continue in that format is because we were never brought clarity, and neither were we corrected on it. We always thought of it as being a symbol of endearment. We always thought of it being a symbol, oh, I just, I care for you. I truly do esteem you highly. No, you have to understand where it comes from and what it represents. Are y'all following me? Yes. Now, does that say that we cannot have fruit? Absolutely not. It just says that this is what their lustful selves always thought about. They could think of nothing else to take fruit and then basically parallel it with someone's genitals. That tells you that there is something wrong, blatantly out of order with that concept. Are y'all following me? Yes. And it's important that we understand not to follow suit and not to follow up under those things. Are y'all following me? Yes. Once again, I'm not telling you do not eat fruit, but what I am telling you once again is that when you see these things and people attach it to it, you stay away from it. Take it for what Yahuwah created it for. Fruit. Are y'all following me? Yes. Just what it is. There's nothing wrong with the fruit. It is what they use to represent. Are you following me? The woman's anatomy with this. Now, a woman's buttocks is often referred to as being a plum or a peach. The ideal that a woman's sexual organ represents the heart symbol supports the societal belief that the symbol is a feminine symbol rather than a symbol that is associated with masculinity. Females are more prone to use the symbol in modern art and even historically than men. As well, female clothing is more susceptible to having the print than male clothing. And it's true. Women clothing always have it on there. Why? Because once again, you have to understand what it is symbolic of and what it is speaking to the person that sees it or to the person that buys it and gives it away and the person that puts it on. Are y'all following me? Yes. All right, y'all still with me? Yes. All right. Now, with the heart usually being red or pink in color, the heart and key symbol is also another icon depicting the woman's vagina as being associated with the heart symbol. When a woman gives a man the key to her heart, she is saying to have full access to her. The ideology is respectively descriptive of the bow piercing the heart. So are you understanding me? Yes. Sexual connotations or sexual symbols, if you don't know it's a sexual symbol and you send it to somebody, if they don't understand, then they're going to be just as ignorant to what it stands for just as you. But if someone gives it to you and they understand this concept, then you know how to say, oh, no, I don't play them games. No, get away with that. Are you following me? Yes. Go, move away, because go on before you get your face slapped or worse thing happen to you. Now, once again, why is it important for us to understand these things? Because we're in a society that constantly applauds this and constantly parades it and makes it all right. Think about the times when children, elementary students, are at school celebrating Valentine's Day. Are y'all following me? Yes. This is already setting them up for being promiscuous. It's already setting them up for desiring relationships. And some of them don't even understand it and know it because of the things that are written on the hearts. All right, we're going to go into this. And we're going to deal from it from the perspective of Valentine's, because it's going to show us a whole lot more concerning this heart. Valentine's Day, Babylon's romantic deception. Babylon's romantic deception. Now, once again, it's very important for us to understand what is being said here. Now, it is very necessary in declaring the truth of the origin of Valentine's Day and the symbols associated with it to include some material of a sexual graphic nature. Are you understanding it? It's graphic because of its nature and because of what it depicts. Once again, it's important that we understand that we have to pull ourselves out of that system and not follow up in it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
We're not supposed to follow in that. Why? Because once again, he told us not to learn the ways of those that we will be among. And we know we are among our enemies. Yes. And we know, once again, that these things are prevalent, but we don't have to be a part of it. Yes. The way we don't be a part of it is that we understand what we're saying stay out of. And that is, once again, the use of these symbols because they are not kosher. They're not kosher, and you don't want to be in this, once again, as we learn where it comes from. So once again, it's about us separating ourselves and being pure and being a set-apart people and not following up behind these things. Let us look at Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, verses 19 through 21.
And it is so.
All right, we haven't said it is so. All right, let's read that.
Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, verses 18 to 21. Coming from the NIV scriptures. We know that anyone born of Yahuwah does not continue to sin.
Mm-hmm.
The one who was born of Yahuwah keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him. We know that we are children of power, and that the whole world is under the control of the evil. We know also that the Son of Power has come and has given us understanding, so that we may know him who is true. And we are in him who is true, even in his Son, Yahushua Mashiach. He is the true power and eternal life. Dear children, keep yourselves from idols. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, little children, guard yourselves from idols. It's important that we understand and that we stay away from this. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Once again, that was 18 through 21. Yehukin and Aleph. Excuse me. Verse 19, and we know that we are of power, and the whole world lies in what? Wickedness. The whole world lies in wickedness. And we know that the Son of Power has come and has given us an understanding that we may know him that is true. And we are in him that is true, even in his Son, Yahushua Mashiach. This is the true power and eternal life. Little children, guard yourselves from idols. Symbols that have their roots and have their beginning from idols. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. And the reason, the chapter, Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, verses 18 to 21. It's important that we understand this is because now we know how to keep ourselves away. And we understand that this basically takes us back into what? Idol worship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we don't want to be known as Hebrews or Ibram that still worship and walk in idolatry. Because we refuse to walk in truth or because we refuse to accept what he is saying to us. Now let us look at Revelations chapter 12, verse 9.
And it is so.
All right, let's read.
Here we are now, Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. coming from the NIV. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Shaitan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Shaitan, who deceives the who? The whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his heavenly messengers with him. Very important for us to understand. Very important. Now, once again, you have to understand the origin, its roots, and its purpose. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because when you understand the purpose of a thing, especially when it comes to do you harm, you stay away from it.
Right.
And watch this. And those that don't want to accept that it can cause harm, you have to stay away from them too.
Yes.
Because we can't afford to live loose lives. We have to maintain our integrity, and we have to maintain our strict lifestyle. Broad is the way, and many there'll be that will walk in it, but narrow is the way. We've got to continue to follow in that narrow path. Why? Because we are set apart for his specific and own personal use. And we can't be set apart if we're still dabbing in stuff. Now, someone might say, well, I didn't know that. I didn't either, but now we know. So now that we know, we do better, and we stay away from those things.
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And not look at it, oh, that's just innocent. A lot of people believe that a little small spider is innocent, but let it bite you. Let a black widow bite you. It'll mess you up. Let a brown recluse. I'm going to say recluse. Recluse bite you. That thing will eat your flesh up. And it's small. It'll eat. And if they don't stop it, most of the time they say they have to cut that flesh out of there. Because that little tiny bit of poison destroys flesh. So once again, you have to understand, a little leaven, what? Leavens the whole lump. A tiny bit of sin brings the whole world of sin into your life. So we can't accept this. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now, once again, you have to understand that Shaitan is seeking to restore his dominion over all the kingdoms of the earth, and his effect to rebuild the Babylon of the Babylonian system. All that stuff that was going on. Are you following me?
Yes.
The practices and symbols spoken of here are disgraceful and will be certainly shocking to some. But you have to understand, it is a time and an hour that it must be revealed, and we have to be exposed to it.
Yes.
You know, when you're in the army or the military, they send you through a time where, what is it that the basic training, but it's a certain, depending on what you're going in for, and they send you in that room with that gas. Well, it's like not the gas chamber. What's the gas room? The tear gas, where they make you put the mask on, then they make you take it off, and they make them sit in there. Why? Because they're exposing them to this stuff, because they want them to get, I guess, used to it. Well, I'm not exposing us to this because I want us to get used to it. I'm exposing us to this teaching so that we will begin to destroy it and begin to tell others, don't follow in. Don't follow suit. And just like we tell people, don't follow behind Halloween. Don't follow behind Christmas. Don't follow behind Easter. Are you following me?
Yes.
Don't follow behind that stuff because it's idolatry. Get out of that. So once again, you have to be exposed to it and understand its roots and understand its purpose in order to tell others about it. And so this is where, and I'm talking about from the other spectrum of the scope. Not using it, but seeing why it was used, and then understanding why we don't use it and why we don't want to. Many people say, but how can you cut people off if they think it's okay and it's harmless? When you understand it's not harmless, that's like somebody playing with a grenade. You know, they pulling the pin in and out, and they got it sitting in their house, and they got all of them around you. So I'm thinking, do you not know what that is? What if somebody picks it up and pulls the pin out? Oh, it'll be okay. No, it is not, because you don't want these things in your home that can kill you and your what? The people you have. So it's important that we get rid of those things and get them out of our lives. Let's look at Ephesians chapter 5, verses 11 through 15, actually through 19. We have it said in this soul. All right, come on.
Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11 to 19.
Yes.
And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them.
Read that again. I'm sorry, read that again.
And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them.
Mm-hmm.
For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret.
Now, hold that. Now, someone may say, but if it's a shame for us to speak of the things that they do in secret, then why are we supposed to bring it forth? Because remember, verse 11 says, but rather reprove them. In other words, he's saying these things. In other words, we don't have to go into the graphic details, but there are some things that you need to know, and you need to hear. Once again, I know it can make people uncomfortable when you're talking about the anatomy and when you're saying certain things, because people believe that's only supposed to be taught or spoken of in rap music when they're being foul with it. That is only supposed to be spoken of when you're in the doctor's office. But it is also to be spoken of when we're sitting and we are learning about those things that are not right, especially when it is used in the wrong concept. It's very important for us to understand that, because we don't want to be running around or walking around with these shirts on or with these symbols on, and you thinking it's just a symbol, really not knowing, and when you do know, you want to get rid of it. Because you don't want to be promoting that. You don't want to be exalting that, because that is not to be promoted or exalted. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for you to understand. All right, let's finish reading.
But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever it does make manifest is light.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore he says, awake you that sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall give you light.
Once again, look at verse 14. Therefore he said, awake you that sleeps, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall give you light. He's getting us light. Once again, this is light. Wherever light is, it is also represents illumination. And where darkness is, darkness also represents the absence of illumination. In other words, it is the absence of knowledge. It is the absence of those things that help us to be productive and move forward. So if we're still in the dark, then you got to ask yourself, why am I in the dark when light has been presented to me? All right, let's read.
Verse 15. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be you not unwise, but understanding what the will of Yahuwah is.
Mm-hmm.
And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Ruach, speaking to yourself in songs and
spiritual songs,
singing and making melody in your hearts to Yahuwah.
And it is so.
Yes.
Once again, that's a term we don't want to use anymore. Once again, very important for us to understand. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You know, somebody said, "Well, how did it get in there?" The same way Shakespeare's name got in there. Same way. Once again, you have to understand. All of us have to be. How can I put this? It's important that we understand every joint supplier. Every joint supplier. Now you have to understand, as I saw it in this matter when I was studying and when I was in my office earlier today, is that every person has a part. You have more than one type of physician for the anatomy. You have the brain or the head doctor, which we call the brain doctor. You have the heart doctor. You have the foot doctor. You have the arm and leg and hand doctor. You have the gynecologist. Are you following me?
Yes.
And so when it's all said and done, every joint supplieth, and each person has an assignment. And so it is important that we understand that sometimes there will be things that will be placed to us that may not be in our field. And so you have to give it to somebody that knows. A heart doctor can't do anything with somebody that have foot problems. A person that deals with the feet can't do anything when it concerning a heart or hand, because that's not their field. So once again, but when we all come together, our whole purpose is to what? Make sure that the body is straight and that the body is functioning and that is well and that is whole and complete. This is important. So once again, sometimes in our doing what we do, we sometimes miss some things. Are you following me?
Yes.
We know we won't use that because we understand where it comes from. And we know we don't want to be singing these things and say we're going to use that because we understand the concept or we understand the origin of that word. Are you following me? Just like we don't use the word glory. Just like we don't use the word faith, but belief. Because they have their roots in idolatry and they have their beginnings from gods and goddesses. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. So this is why we don't use those words, even though you still see them in certain writings. Very important. Are you hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we refrain from those things because we don't want to find ourselves being caught up in that. Once again, it's important that we understand this. Now, we are to bring exposure to these things. And now that you know more about it, you are to bring exposure to these things. Because once again, you don't want to be a married man or woman sending somebody a heart, especially if you are a female. And neither do you want to receive one. And especially if it has an arrow through it. Because you understand now what the gesture is. So you don't want to be in that. And the thing of it is, once again, when you don't know any better, then you do these things. And somebody said, well, I ain't never been to that. You may not have dealt it or done with it. But there are many people that do it and don't feel like it's a problem. But it is a problem. All right. Now, it has been called many things Valentine's Day, but we're going to skip that. I want to really get down to... All right. Now, I'm going to read from here. There are many sources that trace the observance of Valentine's Day back to the Roman festival known as Lupercalia. This became such a debauched event that Pope Gelasius abolished it during his reign between 492 and 496 AD. Now, if you remember, one historian said that he incorporated. Another said he abolished it. Now, you have to understand, and the reason I'm bringing this out, because he made it a festival of purification. To many of people, that would be, well, he abolished it. No, what he did was he basically just changed the name and still let it be what it is. That's not abolishing it. That's just changing the name and giving it another name, purification, so people would still follow in that nasty thing. Although Lupercalia was a local event in the city of Rome, a wider festival was observed by the people of this time known as Juno Fruba, or Juno the Purifier. Juno is a type of Semiramis. The month of February takes its name from this festival that celebrated purification and fertility. So you can look at that whole month, not just a day. And it takes its name from Semiramis, and we're going to find out a little more about her as we continue to read. The oldest documented celebration was dated back in, I think this is September gas, which was celebrated as early as 2000 BC in the Persian Empire. That it should be found there is to be expected, for Babylon lies in what is now the nation of Iraq and Iran. It is immediate neighbor to the east. Now, this is a quote taken from the Persian website. Sependem or Sependaz is another name for Mayu or Menu, earth, meaning sacred, humble, and passionate. It is the symbol of love. It is the humble meaning. It is modest toward the entire creation. These are the qualities attributed to earth that spread beneath our feet, thus the symbol of modesty and love. As human beings, there are creatures that we find unpleasant and repulsive even, but earth is not like us. She embraces all creatures, the same as loves them the same. Like a mother who loves all her children alike, even when they are ugly. In our ancient culture, mother is symbolized by Sependas or Sependarmas, or earth. Now, in the feast, which is the earth, was worshipped and women venerated. On this day, royal women and girls sat on thrones, and men and boys had to obey them and bring them presents and gifts. In this way, men were reminded to acclaim and respect women. In the mystery religions, the earth and celestial bodies were envisioned as deities. Nimrod, who also was known as Baal, was pictured in the sun. He was pictured in the sun. Semiramis was at times pictured in the earth as well as the moon, for both are linked to fertility. A woman's menstrual cycles are based upon the phase of the moon. The ancient Indo-European word means or menes denoted both moon and month and serves as the basis for the words menses and menstrual. Thus, the moon became a symbol of fertility. Crops were planted according to the phases of the moon, and people determined the best dates for conception by the same observances. And this is still done today. All you got to do is get an almanac. And you look at an almanac today, it talks about the phases of the moon, which also means what? Month. These things correlate. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand this. Why? Because once again, this was equated to Semiramis and Nimrod. This is where this was birthed from. Are y'all following me? Yes. So it opens us up and causes us to really look at things once again in retrospect and go back and look at some other things. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. Once again, even when it's that time of the month for a woman, this is why it's called a menstrual. And this is why when they look and they start counting the months, or they look at the moon. Are you following me? Yes. Months and moons basically correlate. Now, listen at this. The earth also served as a symbol of fertility. And it is this relationship that has given rise to the name Mother Earth, Semiramis. Therefore, being the origin of the goddess of fertility, was associated with both the earth and the moon. Now, this feast, which is the Semperdarmas, or Sependagan, is a feast established for the worship of Mother Earth, whose bounty was entreated by bringing gifts to women. This is the origin of men presenting gifts to the women or to their female lovers on Valentine's Day. Chocolate, roses, greeting cards, jewelry, and a variety of other gifts are all the modern enactment of this ancient idolatrous festival. So you see where it comes from. Yeah. Once again, it's just not a day where, this is how you do. They did this because this was the setup that they were doing for the Earth Festival, where they would go and this is what they would offer up, and they would take and give. Because really on Valentine's Day, that's what it was about. Men taking gifts to who? To women. Women just started recently, in the last, maybe in our generation, maybe about the last 15, 20 years. Women, so I'm just kind of throwing it out there, would take gifts to men. Because you see when the shift came in, because you see it wasn't just a man thing. Women began to take part of it. Because I know when I thought it was okay, I did. So it was kind of like one of those things that you looked at, well, if he could give me gifts, why not do the same? Not understanding where it came from. That this was for men to do, and they were to do it for the women. Even the little boys were to do it to the little girls. Set up. It was an idolatrous festival. Now, this, and it comes from the Zoroastrian religion, and its association with the god of Ahura Mazda. Alexander Hislop reveals that both Zoroaster and Ahura Mazda are other identities of Nimrod. So this is also an identity of or name of Nimrod. Understanding these things is reason enough for us to choose not to have any participation in this festival. Now, once again, let's look at what the scripture has to say to us. Corinthians, chapter 6, verses 14 through 17. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Well, you have it saying it is so. Chapter 6, verse 14 through 17.
And it is so.
All right, come on, read that for me.
Bet chapter 6, verses 14 to 17. Coming from the NIV. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do uprightness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Mashiach and Belial? What does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of power and idols? For we are the temple of the living Yahuwah. As Yahuwah has said, I will live with them and walk among them, and I will be their power, and they will be my people. Therefore come out from them and be separate, says Yahuwah. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, that's chapter 6, verses 14 through 17. Now, once again, and this is how it is read in the Abrahamic covenant. Hold on, let me look at chapter 6, verse 14 through 17. And it reads, and Yahuwah has both raised up Yahusha and will also raise us up by his own power. Do you not know that your bodies are the members of Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of Mashiach and make them the members of a harlot? Yahuwah forbid. Once again, we're not connected. And you have to understand, by following this and being participants, we become the followers of harlots. We become the followers of this idolatrous way of life. Now, once again, what do you know? Do you not know that he which is joined to a harlot is one body? For he said the two shall become a cow. So that means if we join ourselves to this way of life and we join ourselves to this belief and we continue to accept it, we become a part of that system. We become a practice. We become participants. We become practicers of this, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be a part of that because we don't want to be one with that. But he that is joined to Yahuwah is one Ruach. So we are joined to Yahuwah through Yahusha, our Mashiach, through the instructions. So it's very important that we understand how to govern our lives and how to separate ourselves from this, because remember, this is just not a symbol, but this symbol is steeped and birthed out of idolatry. And it has its roots in Babylon. Now, once again, very important. Now, we should look at and consider the various celebrations and holidays that have had their origin at some point. And many of them can be traced back directly to idolatrous worship. When we discern that even an event that has such an origin, we should separate ourselves from any association with that which was birthed in idolatry. Many of these idolatrous celebrations were very obscene and having a focus upon the act of production that was distorted into something contrary to Yahuwah's desire. Rather sex being viewed as a sacred thing to be shared among a ish and an isha in a relationship of fidelity, it became something promiscuous. It became something promiscuous. Like today, even in the music. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
You have to understand, once again, the world is what? In wickedness. And because the world is in wickedness, and because we do live here, does not mean that we have to be a part of that wickedness, because he set us apart. And he gave us everything we needed to be able to live a life that is set apart from that. But we just have to find ourselves walking in it and accepting these truths, regardless of how long we walked in, regardless of what heirlooms that we have, jewelry and whatever. And separate ourselves from that so that we can begin to live and show the world that we don't have to use their tools to show endearment.
Yes.
We don't have to use their tools and their gifts and their trinkets and their talismans. Are you following me?
Yes.
We don't live that life. And anybody that does, if they can't separate themselves, then you need to separate yourself from them. Very important. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Are they taking it? Now, The symbol most widely associated with Valentine's Day is the heart. As you look at an actual human heart, you can even look and wonder why would they even choose a heart, because the heart looks nothing, the real heart looks nothing like a heart. I don't know what a heart looks like. If you ever seen mm, it looks like something. I mean, it doesn't look tantalizing at all. But the heart looks, I mean, let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Picture that. It's nothing that you would look at and, present to somebody. I want to give you my heart. And be like, ah, okay. But that's what the heart looks like. It looks nothing like the heart that is depicted when you say, I'm going to give you my heart. When they show it to you, it's this what we've been shown. That's what the heart looks like, the real heart from your body, and not the heart that they created. All right. Now, once again, it's very important for us to understand there was a method and there was a reason for their choosing this heart, the one that we have been accustomed to seeing. Now, once again, when you look at the heart, it's totally different. Now, in the Egyptian lab of Mitzrayim, the ancient Mitzrayim, when wanting to symbolize the human organ, had a much different image than they used. It is called the lab. This is a much better graphics as it reflects the valves and arteries of the heart. This image predates the heart graphic that has become commonplace today. One must ask, where then did the shape we now draw as a heart originate? This is where we find. What the traditional heart shape actually depicts is a matter of some controversy. It only vaguely resembles a human heart. Some claim that it actually depicts the heart of a cattle, a more readily available sight to most people in past centuries than an actual human heart. However, while beef hearts are more similar to the iconic heart shape, the resemblance is still slight. The shape does resemble that of three-chambered heart of the turtle and that of the human male prostate gland, but it's very unlikely that the image was patterned after either of these organs. There are many claims that the heart shape actually depicts features of a human female, such as the female pubic mound or vulva. Are y'all hearing me? Yes. Sumerian cuneiform symbol for woman closely resembles the heart shape and is believed to directly depict the pubic mound. Others maintain that the heart resembles the shape of the female breast or the female buttocks, especially when bent over. Once again, this is important that you understand where they get these from. Once again, it is explicit, but it's just showing you where their minds always stay. Always stay, and you can see that today in their commercials and advertising. You can't even really look at a bottle of water without them having some type of sexual connotation behind it. Are you following me? Yes. Even when you're trying to go to get something to eat, it is always some type of sexual connotation or something to lure a person into the mental mindset of something that's sexual. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Once again, many of these people you deal with, many of us deal with them, many of us go to work with many of these people, and what you may see and what they may not openly say, they do it with gestures. Are you following me? Yes. So once again, it's very important for us to understand what's going on. Now, any of these origins would indicate that the heart was originally a symbol of fertility and sexuality, and explaining its current association with love. The heart shape may also represent a perfectly formed and spread labia. The piercing of a heart or valentine with an arrow, an obvious phallic symbol, then becomes a straightforward representation of act of love. Now, once again, listen what is being said here. The piercing of a heart or valentines with an arrow, an obvious phallic symbol, then becomes a straightforward representation of an act of love. Uh, Depicting penetration. Are you following?
Yes.
Once again, it was taken from that to a symbol. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That people wear on their clothes. That people wear or put up on billboards. That people use. Now watch this. When we were in Christianity and they do the love day. And you go into the ballroom and they're doing a ball. They're having a Valentine dance and you see hearts hanging all over the place. And you see the hearts and the cakes and the food and everything in the cupcakes and the cakes and everything has hearts and everything is depicted as a heart. And you see the baskets. Everything is a heart. And they're wearing pink or red. Are you following me?
Yes.
Symbolism. Now, we must keep in mind that Valentine's Day is simply the modern form of the ancient festival that worshipped Semiramis as the goddess of fertility. Her festivals were known for their impure sexual practices, and the act of sexual intercourse was an integral part of it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Even when we read in Wayikwa chapter 17 and 18, where it talked about them, their practices, and it talked about illicit sexual acts when they would go and they would be dealing with Molech. Are y'all following me? In the valley of Gehenna, where they would go and they would basically sacrifice their children. But they were also doing other things in that valley. So once again, you have to understand when Yahuwah made correction then, he makes corrections now. Somebody say, well, we don't do those things. But yeah, you got to understand, those things or those symbols still have a connection to that way of life, and we don't want to be connected to that. Very important. Now, the symbol, what this symbol actually represents, when we look at this symbol, it depicts Valentine's Day. It was very commonly known or shown in association with Cupid shooting an arrow into the heart. Now, once again, everybody saw and everybody knows what it looks like, a heart being shot with an arrow. Now, we always looked at that. You see little fat baby and, little naked European fat baby. And, everybody looked at that and like, oh, Cupid. There's nothing innocent, precious, or nice about it. It is commonly understood that the arrow is a phallic symbol and it is an image that represents the male sex organ. This symbol is used even in the internationally recognized symbol for the male sex. So once again, when you see the different, how they have the circle and the arrow, that's the sex organ. When you see just the circle, that's also an organ. Remember when they did the Teletubbies? And they had them things on their heads and all that stuff. Those were sex symbols. You hear me? Phallic symbols. So once again, you have to understand we have always been exposed to these things. But this is one that we as a people would use when we're dealing and we're telling people, Khan, and we're letting people know, what, I feel, you're my Ak, you're my Akodi. And I enjoy or I have what you're doing. And so we're sending billions and billions of hearts to one another, not understanding what they represent. And so once again, it is important that we understand where it came from and why we can't do this anymore. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because it's not innocent at all. Now, once again, we can gain more understanding as we understand who Cupid is. Although Cupid is commonly depicted today as a winged baby, this is merely part of the deceit of Shaitan. He seeks to depict Cupid as something that is innocent, when historically he has been known as anything but innocent. Now, we're going to see some of the depictions of him. There's nothing that I'm going to show you something that ain't right. But let's look at this. And that's gold. That's in pure gold. And that's a heart. That's a charm or a necklace. A charm that goes on the necklace. Y'all know we've seen these things. We've had these little things. And, like I say, some of us, when we were in Christianity, just kind of kept some of the things that we had. And then, like I say, some of us, not all of us, but some of us didn't get into these things. But then there were those of us that did. We played a heavy part in it because we would go, like I say, I would spend hundreds of dollars on these things, flowers and candy and balloons, heart-shaped balloons, because you even now, even when it's not the season for it, there's still things that are in the shape of a heart. Balloons, graduation balloons, and other types of balloons. So you really can't miss these things because they are so prevalent. And the reason it is because Shaitan wants us to always keep that image or always keep that going on in our lives because it just keeps the door open. Are y'all following me? Yes. All right. Now, the actual identity of Cupid reveals an image that is not innocent at all. The website Wikipedia states that this of his identity. In Roman mythology, Cupid, Latin Cupido, is the god of erotic love and sex. He is equated with the Greek god Eros, and another of his Latin names, Amor. We can understand the true name of Cupid or true nature of Cupid as we observe some of the English words that have been derived from his Rome, Greek, and Latin names. Concupiscence, illicit sexual desire, unlawful desire, cupidity, covetousness, eroticism, and an abnormal emphasis of sex and sexual relations. Erogenetic, I think that's producing sexual desires. Amorous, showing or feeling sexual desire. Now you got to remember, these are his names. This is his name, and these are the things that are attached to him. The Greeks and the Romans viewed Cupid, Eros, after the image that these words depicted. The following words are found under the Wikipedia listing for Eros. In Greek mythology, Eros was the primordial god of lust, love, and intercourse. He was also worshipped as a fertility deity. Following is a picture of a statue of Cupid Eros found in the ruins of Pompeii. It is dated to the 1st century BC. Now we all know, you hear about Pompeii, and you start thinking, Pompeii. I'm them the people that got burned all up by the volcano. Well, I remember seeing it before I even read this, and I said that was probably one of the things, the reason why, because when you see them do a documentary on it, they really don't tell you why the people died. Mm-hmm. They just kind of say, well, the volcano erupted and that was there and they couldn't escape, and you even see children, you see families stuck in the ash, and we're thinking, oh man, they didn't make it, poor things. But you have to understand the reason why these people were judged. Yes. Why they were judged. It is evident that this is no cherubic baby. The citizens of Pompeii and Herculaneum, which were alike killed in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, were obsessed with sex. The paintings, sculptures, and artwork found in these buried cities revealed the most explicit and excessive focus upon sex. That a judgment was brought upon these cities due to their sin is as likely as it was for the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, who ran to the same excesses. This is why they were killed. See, we don't see that part. We only see the people in ashes, but they don't uncover the ruins where they show the pictures and all the sculptures and statues. That's all they thought about. 24/7 was sex. So that's what they basically brought forth. Depictions of it. They said it was on walls. They said it was on statues. So that meant that's all they did. And even you have to understand, and even when they brought children up, they introduced their children even into this way of life. So once again, and this is why they were killed. But when you watch the documentaries, they only say they couldn't get away because the volcano. They only say they couldn't get away because the volcano erupted before they could get away. You ain't gonna make me believe they were not warned to change their ways. Mm-hmm. And I'm inclined to believe it. Because you would have to ask the question, why would Yahuwah destroy them? Why would he destroy them? Are you following me? Yes. There are other people that were doing the same thing. But you have to understand, why would he destroy them? He destroyed them because of what they were doing. It was heinous. And that's all they thought about, to where you look at every time you turn around, there's a statue of a naked person. There's a statue of them being intimate. So this was what their whole city was about. So you start thinking, when did y'all ever do anything else? So that meant that, watch this, anybody that came into their city, they basically turned out. Anybody that came through there, any passerbyers, or anybody that came to even visit, you can believe they probably was turning them people out. Pompeii. You can believe they were turning them people out. Why? Because once again, these people were destroyed because of their sexual obsession. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
That means they were doing it constantly. Are you following me?
Yes.
They were constantly moving and constantly, this was all that they were promoting. Horrible. Once again, knowing then that it is Shaitan's habit to depict that which is vile in an innocent form, knowing that Cupid is the god of illicit sexual desire, and understanding that the arrow is a symbol of the male sex organ, what is it that is actually being depicted in the symbols associated with Valentine's Day? Once again, very important for us to understand that. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to stop right there. Once again, it's very important for us to understand. Once again, we're looking at what the heart symbol, but we're looking at just Valentine's Day. And even though Valentine's Day is supposed to be only celebrated one time a year, it is still being observed throughout the years because of the things that continue to basically promote the symbolism. Once again, balloons, shirts, because you have to understand the heart has been incorporated in people's everyday lives. Not just Valentine's Day. I remember there was a time when you really didn't see any hearts until it was time for Valentine's Day. Now, not just Valentine's Day. I remember there was a time when you really didn't see any hearts until it was time for Valentine's Day. Now you see it once again when you look. Once again, if you look in your social media and you're in your messages, if you look in there, everything is steeped in hearts. You can't like a person's post unless you click that heart. You can't even really, and the thing of it is, you can say something, but most of the time we get to the point where we get lazy. You know, and you be like, I like it, but I really don't want to say I like it. I just want to know I like it. So what do we push? We push that button and say like, and it just doesn't say like. It's a heart over there that you have to push. And guess what comes up? A big old red heart. And we know what it depicts. It shows, or it is a depiction of a woman's female part. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So when you send that, listen to me clearly. Because we were ignorant. When you send that, it is just like sending or opening yourself up to that. Like you're sending a woman's organ. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And so it's important that we not use these things any longer, and that we basically pull ourselves out and everybody else that we deal with and say, look, don't send me that. If you can't just send a con or send a toda or like, you know, send not even thumbs up, send a like, don't get involved in it. Why? Because we don't want to be attached or known by our association with these symbols. We don't want to be known because of these symbols. We don't want people to believe that we get down like that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because I didn't know these things. So I openly repent to anybody that I've sent these things to unknowingly. Because once again, it's never my intention, or never was it ever my intention, to ever promote such a diabolical, abominable thing, especially to our people. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because this is not of Yahuwah. And you can believe all day long that it is innocent and that it is okay when it is not. The connotations and that what is behind it is diabolical.
Yes.
And it can lead to places and lead people into places that they ought not go. Are you following me?
Yes.
So once again, it's very important that we don't. As it was brought to my attention, so is it for me to bring to your attention and show you this is not the way. It is not the way. And this symbolism is detrimental to our walk and to our way with Yahuwah. because he told us not to follow in the ways of the world. Did he not?
Yes.
And he said we ought to reprove the darkness. And so we don't speak of everything that they do, but we do share enough, or I do share enough to get your attention, to make you aware of these symbols and these phallic symbols, that you will stay away from them and that you will not be a participant. And once again, if you know someone that's participating in it, just pull them to the side. Look, you don't want to use that. You don't want to find yourself being involved in that because of where it is, where it was birthed from. Once again, I'm going to stop here. Yahuwah willing, we will pick back up next Yom Kamishi, and we will finish it because it's more. But I want that to ruminate in your heart, and I want you to pray on it. I want you to even ask Abba Yahuwah to forgive you, to forgive us, that we, as a people, fell into that trap. Now, like I said, everybody did not. But for those of us that did, we know we have to repent of it and get it right. Because we don't want that to be counted against us because we ignorantly was involved in something that we had no idea of its roots or its birthing place. So once again, I want to leave that on your mind and leave that on your heart as we pray. Abba Yahuwah, I Torah you for this time of class. I Torah you for this time of reproof and for this time of correction, as you have brought us to a place to realize the errors of our ways, an error that we thought was okay, innocent and harmless. We now see that it is not harmless, and that we will always be striving to be close to you. But because of these things that we involve ourselves and put our hands to, it has kept us in a place where we have not been able to move forward. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, for causing us to remove our hands from this type of idolatry and from this style of idolatry, and helping us to move forward and to embrace our set apartness, and realizing that we are a people, and that if we need to say anything, we know how to say it without symbols. We know how to open our mouths and speak truth. We know how to speak to one another with clarity and intelligently, and show our feelings and even our endearment. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, for your word and for your will on tonight being manifested. I pray on tonight that the enemy will not come in and try to rob us of the truth that we received. I rebuke him in the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach. No illicit, no unnatural, and abnormal dreams. I rebuke the enemy that he will not come and try to infect us or tries to cause us to walk in fear. But we will walk in a place and be secure because you cover us, you cover our hearts, our minds, and we will not see imagery and we will not see these things, but we will be able to move forward, and we will not be bound because you have come to set us free and give us truth that makes us free or sets us free. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, because the setting comes because we listen and we apply it. Your word says, the truth shall make us free. And I told you, Abba Yahuwah, for the making process. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, that we willfully put ourselves in position to be made over again. Renew us, restore us, revive us, Abba Yahuwah. That we will truly be a people that stand forward and stand in your anointing and stand in your truth. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, for your word and for your will being done and manifested in us. I pray for your sons on this night and your daughters. I pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you will cause the Torah to lift up a standard against the enemy. I pray tonight that our rest will be sweet and our sleep will be peaceful, full of your shalom. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, that the enemy will not find any door to try to come in, but that every door is governed and guarded by the Torah. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, that we don't have to fear being exposed to truth, because this truth helps us to pull ourselves out of this way that is an abomination unto you. I told you, Abba Yahuwah, for your word and for your will. I pray this night for your people, our people, that we will remain watchmen, and we will stand together and we will fight the enemy as you have given it unto us according to the Torah. I pray this night in the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach, and it is so. And it is so. Well, once again, I pray that Abba Yahuwah continues to keep you and continues to give you his shalom. Once again, it is the truth that we need, and it is the truth that we must continue to uphold. Once again, I pray that Yahuwah will continue to lead and guide you, and that you will continue to share this truth, and that you will continue to disarm the enemy by taking away from him what he has used in a subtle way for so many years to devastate homes, to devastate families, to devastate people's lives. I pray this night that we will rise up in the boldness that he's given unto us in the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach. I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also known as 777, and I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Bread Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the body excellent. Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.